HR leaders expect to be using AI more.
Hmm.
So we can all say that AI is going to help do things. We can all say that our daily jobs have been changed by AI. But the actual leaders, the people in charge of the function of HR in in big organizations, are expecting this only to go up and keep driving more and more.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Benefits Wise. We've got a really exciting show for you today where we'll be talking about strategic benefits and, importantly, tech trends that HRs can't ignore. I'm alongside benefits guru David Pugh. I don't think I've ever introduced you as a benefits guru before, but
Never been said before.
there you go. You need to live up to the reputation now. And we're also joined alongside Tom and Daniel from Mintago. So thank you very much for joining us today. For viewers who might not have too much prior knowledge of Mintago, Daniel, can I come across to you to give us a bit of an intro in terms of who you are, what Mintago do, etc.?
Yeah, sure. No, thanks for the intro, Dan. Mintago is effectively a employee benefits platform, but how we do things is actually different to what you may probably sort of immediately think of when we talk about benefits platform. The reason why we're different is because actually we pay a lot of attention to how we offer it in terms of a way that is extremely comprehensive. And it's comprehensive not in terms of just a whole bunch of benefits that you could sort of access, but it's comprehensive in a way in terms of actually, everything that we offer touches someone's sort of importance in their life journey when they're at work. So from when they've just graduated to when they're starting a family or to looking to buy a house, to then actually putting their kids through to education, and throughout all that, wanting access to sort of appropriate healthcare guidance, to retirement planning, to then actually taking care of their elderly. And what we do over at Mintago is that we actually make all of that very easy and seamless to sort of manage from the employer's point of view. And so that's why I like to say that we are different. We come from it from a very different angle in terms of giving people what's relevant rather than just a whole shopping list that may not be relevant, because we completely understand that employers actually get very frustrated about providing a whole range of benefits, but benefits that actually none of their employees engage with. And, we decided to sort of take this approach, and we've been doing this for over 6 years now. And it's quite helpful being able to sort of start from scratch, because that way we can really be quite efficient and effective in terms of how we deliver it.
Yeah, excellent. And we know that engagement piece is so vitally important for organizations of all shapes and sizes. So thank you very much, Daniel. David, obviously this is going to go out to lots of organizations from Mintago who might not necessarily be aware of Illumity. Can I set you the challenge of a 1-minute overview of who Illumity are and what we do?
Challenge accepted. Call different things. Some people will call us a broker, an employee benefit consultant, but ultimately we will help you choose a range of benefits appropriate to your people, and more importantly, engage your staff with them. So that could be pensions, it could be healthcare, it could be a platform. Yeah, so whatever you need benefit-wise, we're a good place to start.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. Okay, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the conversation. Tom, I'd like to bring you in and let's talk about 2026. We were just off camera there talking about our Christmas decorations, and we're rapidly approaching the end of the year. I know I've got a couple of mince pies downstairs, which will be in heavy rotation. But in terms of what you're seeing in the tech space, Tom, what trends are you seeing emerging for 2026? Where do you think benefits tech is heading?
Yeah, great question. I think there's two key trends that I see. One's fairly obvious, but may present unexpected challenges. And then one's something that is happening under the hood in the market that people don't necessarily see, but you might see it on the Illumity side. The first piece is obviously AI. Everyone is going to talk about AI no matter what we do. There's some really interesting research from Heidrick and Struggles. And what the research showed is that HR leaders expect to be using AI more. So we can all say that AI is going to help do things. We can all say that our daily jobs have been changed by AI. But the actual leaders, the people in charge of the function of HR in these big organizations, are expecting this only to go up and keep driving more and more. That was across a variety of different jobs. Obvious ones, because we've all been using probably LLMs, so things like ChatGPT, things like drafting job descriptions. That is a writing task, so we can expect that, right? It's fairly normal stuff. Whereas some other things you might not be expecting is that there's expected a kind of like a 7-fold increase in the use of AI for workforce planning. And that might be a little bit harder to see how that might apply to AI at the moment, because we think of AI maybe as a writing tool, maybe make some fun videos on the internet, but we don't think about how it might be practically applied to maybe solving staffing shortages, maybe predicting staffing shortages. So different techniques will help. It won't just be generative AI, I think. There'll be more different kinds of AI coming into HR technology, and it'll most likely be embedded. So you'll see platforms that already exist changing and adapting to try and use AI, as opposed to brand new platforms popping up. We all know that the more platforms you end up with, the more complicated things get. So we probably won't see novel platforms. We'll probably see, for example, something like large workforce planning. You'll probably see existing workforce planning companies trying to bring AI into their existing product. There will be offshoots, but I think they'll most likely just get bought up and merged back into core AI technology. That's like one, I would say, fairly obvious theme, but the way it will be applied is not necessarily obvious. There's one less obvious thing that I think is happening, and you probably see this quite a lot your side. And this is that the actual technology providers under the hood are consolidating. So you see more and more kind of front of house software providers and technology providers in the HR space. But underneath, there's fewer and fewer actual technology providers. And this is, again, a trend I would expect to see continue, to where you maybe end up with like 5 or 6 large HR providers. There might be lots of brands on top of them, but particularly when it comes to things like benefits and reward, the people that are actually building the core technology seem to be consolidating, with more people using the same brands on top. It's interesting because picking a product as an HR leader, picking a benefits package, these sorts of things, it might become less differentiated over time. It might be harder to stand out versus the competition. So these things will change the way I think people shop for these products, because there's going to be basically less diversity in the market.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. You kind of threw up one of those challenges, which when we're speaking to organizations from a HR point of view, having multiple platforms, managing various different tasks is obviously a challenge. What other challenges do you see HRs facing in this space?
There's likely to be a shift in the role or the representation of the role of HR I see in the next few years. I think HR is becoming more and more financially driven. I think it's getting closer and closer to the role of the CFO, in that those two roles are aligning very closely. And I think as we're heading into, let's say, an uncertain economy, particularly in Europe, there's going to be this shift of HR being not just a, how do we keep the company happy? How do we think about training? How do we think about reward? How do we think about employer value proposition? But it's also going to be thinking, how do we think about efficiency? How do we think about cost? And at some organizations, all of this already happens. But I think this will spread across the whole industry, and HR will really be brought in as part of that core leadership team of thinking proactively about headcount. Because when we think about medium-term changes, let's say 5 years, and we start thinking about the rise of things like humanoid robotics or like specialized robotics, we're going to see reductions in workforce probably, or an expansion in productivity, or both. All of this is going to affect HR. It's impossible that HR is not going to be crucially involved in all of this. So really the challenges are going to be, I think, around this, like, one, this uncertain economic picture, but two, this uncertain future picture of what difference does AI make? Let's say a low to medium difference in predominantly white collar work, but then robotics making quite a large difference in more blue collar roles. And then how does that affect the business? How does that affect your hiring? How does that affect your talent management? How many people do you need? Who do you want to retain? All these questions start coming up. And I think, again, it's impossible to move that conversation forward without key involvement from HR.
Yeah, I totally agree. David, can I come to you from a consultant's lens or point of view? What sort of challenges do you see HR teams facing at the moment?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think bringing the data together, because for AI to have impact, it needs to base it on something. So if you've got your back office systems coordinated so that HR is close to finance, and there are platforms that can really help do that, then when AI does really kick in, and I know it started for some companies, but it's got a long way to go, it'll really have much, much more impact. And it's almost a real challenge to imagine what it will be doing because it's in such an infancy, but it will be doing more than now. So, yeah, I think the more you can get your data sorted in the background, the more you can be, single entry and be really forward looking with it. Because if you think about it from a benefits point of view, I think the perfect solution would be to have thousands of people in HR so that if anyone's got a HR related question, they can talk to somebody. Well, you can do that with AI, and you don't need anybody in HR to do that. So if all of your data points for HR are in one place, then chatbots, etc., can be created, personalized to your organization, to effectively give everyone their own HR assistants. That would be nirvana for some companies, but it would never happen if it was real people that had to do that work.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be a nice position to be in if that was the case, wouldn't it? Tom, can I come back to you? Have you got any examples of a company who's perhaps ahead of the curve at the moment in terms of the benefits tech or what they're doing?
Yeah, to continue on David's point, I think there's quite a few people that we work with, companies like Faux, companies like Galliard, Holmes, where they have already done what is effectively the hard work. They've worked really hard to make sure that are all our documents consistent? Do we have all our policies in one place? How do we think about pricing of different policies? How does the company fund those policies? And bringing all that together is actually a, a lot of work. It takes a very long time, but it's very hard to move forward with the technology. It's very hard to move forward with the fun stuff without having that basic, like, administrative stuff in place. And the advantage, as Daniel said, is that being able to provide a comprehensive package and comprehensive, I guess, benefits and a good employer value proposition facilitated by technology so that it doesn't involve dozens and dozens of people having to answer day-to-day questions. I'd look at those two and say they're doing a really good job just like lining up their company to be able to have a lean HR team where you can still actually offer a best in class or best in industry benefits package at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that Mintago are very keen on understanding the role data plays in the back end of all of this. And Daniel, perhaps I'll bring you back in and ask you the question: what role do you see personalization playing in benefits, and how does the data then help to feed into that?
Yeah, I think it's all about relevance, right? If you think about why people engage with something, it's because actually they can relate to it. They can understand why it's for them. They can understand, you know, the benefits that they'll get out of it. And more importantly, it actually makes it easy for them to actually access and actually take action. And so, the data side of things, everything is all about, analyzing and communicating it in a way to our users where it brings up that relevance. And it's not necessarily about giving them the right answer. It's actually more important to actually make them smarter in terms of what to ask. If you ask the right questions, you will get the right answer, right? And this is how Mintago is actually building and innovating our platform, is that with the data that we have, we will provide our users the ability to ask the right questions. And yes, it's going to be serviced a lot by tech, but I think it's really important that there is a people side of things. There is a expert side of things. There's experience. There's gray hair. There's a credibility when it comes to sort of, what type of, advice or action points, these users can take. And I know we'll talk about it later on, but I think, that's one of the huge benefits with regards to partnering with someone like yourselves at Illumity to provide that complementary, I guess, personalization/advice alongside data, right? I think it's wrong to take a look at data in its own silo and think just in itself you can achieve personalization. Uh, but that's what we need to be aware of when we go into this.
Yeah, absolutely. And Daniel, you've touched on it there, but obviously now is a great time to bring up the fact that Illumity and Mintago are in partnership together. So perhaps you could, from your side of things, elaborate a little bit more on what drew Mintago to partnership with Illumity. You've already touched on the advice process there, but are there any other areas you want to touch on?
I think it's to do with the expertise, right? I mean, you guys are experts in employee benefits, work pension schemes, and personalized sort of financial planning, right? If you think about what we do, we are the only benefits provider that actually help people and employers care for their actual pension schemes. Arguably, a pension is a person's biggest asset, but it's the most neglected. You guys at Illumity have been doing this for many, many years. And you actually, if you take a look at your portfolio of clients, have established, great trust and credibility amongst, the large enterprises, the big household names. And that was really sort of one of the key things until that, you guys really stood out. The other aspect of it is actually, it's really a long conversation I had with David. And our values are aligned. I think, you guys genuinely want to help, employees. You do this because, okay, fine, your customers are the employers, our customers are employers too, and obviously we need to help them be as profitable as possible. But we can see beyond that, right? Because we can see the fact that actually, if we treat the employees right, if we give them really, a proper solution, then the employers indirectly sort of benefit from it because employees start to use it. And I think it's the fundamental values that, both these businesses have been established and have been grown on what is pillars of belief. And that pillars of belief is basically, why do we do what we do? Because it's the right thing to do, right? There are lots of people out there that need financial help, right? There are many different ways to be able to do that. And, there's nothing more effective and more efficient than this help coming from an employer on a B2B basis because of the reach, because of that already established relationship versus what is a B2C. And I think, you guys believe that. And I think together, with Mintago's tech-enabled platform combined with Illumity's expertise, advice, and personalization on that side of things, I think it's a very complementary offering that we can provide um, the UK economies.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. And David, from the Illumity side of things, I'll throw the question and the flip side. So, what drew us to partnering with Mintago?
Yeah, well, I mean, typically we're agnostic when it comes to tech because different tech will suit different organizations. But what really drew us to Mintago was that combined mission statement. So most tech companies aren't so focused on financial well-being, and you guys really are. And to read out your mission, it's to help both employers and employees live happier and financially healthier lives, which is really unusual for something that is tech at its core. And that really resonates with us. We're all about prosperity through clarity. So it's that commonality of prosperity, financial well-being, and your platform really helps us create clarity. It's that light bulb moment of understanding that employees are looking for to think, actually, this stuff isn't so intimidating. It's not so complicated. I get it. And will they make better decisions? So it's just joining those two things up. So yeah, thank you, Daniel, for those kind words about our expertise, but that expertise in your platform, it's 1 and 1 equals 3, in which everyone's looking for synergy.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the type of maths I like. Daniel, just touching back on, obviously, we know that the end user is the focus point here, but in terms of from an employer or an organization point of view, what type of impact do you think this partnership might have on employers?
Yeah, I think it allows the benefit and the advice to filter through deeper throughout the organization. And what I mean by that is, I think we've seen it a lot where we ourselves are within a small circle of people. When we discuss it in the canteen, etc., we talk about, yes, we need this, or no, we agree with this, but then it kind of just stays there. When we talk about financial well-being and we talk about ideas in terms of how we can sort of, help our employees sort of flourish and prosper financially. I think it needs that type of messaging and that type of sort of ideation needs to sort of filter through the entire organization. And I think that's why through Mintago, we act as a communications platform. And I think with the partnership that we have with you, you are always constantly out there, obviously advising people and speaking to many, many different businesses. And through the knowledge that you have, we can use that and the technology to educate people in terms of, actually, did you know what? The latest theme is this. Oh, did you know what? Your peers in your industry is this. Or even as simply as, oh, do you know what? The factory in Manchester, has this as an insight compared to the factory in Surrey, for example, right? And I think the impact is going deeper, but still getting that engagement rather than it being sort of shallow. Hopefully that makes sense in relation to where I think this could go in the future.
Definitely. I think, I think you're absolutely spot on there. I know time is running away from us. So, David, perhaps I'll come to you for the last question of today. And why do you think now, or perhaps 2026, is the right time for organizations to be investing in benefits, innovation, and technology? We often come across organizations looking at this area. Why do you think now might be the right time to pull the trigger?
Yeah, good question. I think 2025 was a hard year for a lot of companies. A number of things, blowing against them, whether it's the national insurance changes or lots of other things politically. And I think companies have cut back if they needed to, and it's time to move forward. Companies are spending loads of money on benefits, but I think a lot will recognize they're not getting full value from it. Every survey I look at, financial well-being in the workplace isn't where anyone in HR would want it to be. So I think people need to be a little bit smarter how they spend their money, try and personalize it more, make it more relevant. And whenever you do talk to staff about what they want, it obviously depends who you're talking to, but you get different answers. So I think it needs to be far more laser focused, and through a combination of tech and expertise, you can definitely do that. So I think you've got to step back, think, well, what is the company trying to achieve in the year ahead? Align the benefits, align the HR strategy to that. I think our audience will know that very well. And hopefully we can come in and give a bit of innovation, even if it's just revitalizing what they've got, making it work better. And what we haven't touched on with Mintago is, while financial wellbeing is the focus, there are loads of salary sacrifice savings you can create by engaging better on these matters. I know Rachel Reeves, time date this really, next week might completely change how salary sacrifice works. But that's always been threatened for, forever. So something will always come out of the other side. And if you are watching this after the budget, it'll be interesting to see what has changed. But whatever the news, we have a solution to the objectives you're trying to hit. And so together, I think we could do more.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. And I think 2026 is going to be fascinating. Well, it never stands still, but I definitely saw at the start of 2025 to where technology, especially in the AI space where it is now, I can only imagine what it's going to be like in 12 to 18 months time. So I think it's a really exciting space to be in. I think Mintago have got a fantastic product, and I think you guys are fantastic, and you're experts in this area. So just wanted to say thank you for coming on board and joining us today. Tom, Daniel, David, thank you all for your thoughts. And obviously this is going out there. If people do want to get in touch with either organization, please feel free to reach out to us. I'm sure we're all on our LinkedIn socials if anyone did have any questions or wanted to follow up. So yes, that about wraps us up. So thank you very much for joining us today, and we will see you all on the next one. Take care, gents.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks for that.
Thank you very much.